I just laughed at a stupid joke over dinner, and his hand came down across my face in front of everyone. I thought it was just another family humiliation, until I discovered our smart speaker had accidentally connected to his online board meeting, with the entire company board listening with their mics on. And then I realized they weren't the only ones who'd heard everything. My name is Brooke Landry, and at 34, I never imagined I'd be back in my childhood bedroom, staring at faded posters and feeling like a stranger in what used to be home. 6 months after my divorce, I'd moved back to my mother's house in Granite Ridge, Michigan, a temporary arrangement. I kept telling myself, just until I could save enough for my own place. Except this wasn't the home I remembered. My mother Elaine had remarried 3 years ago to Victor Mallory, owner of Mallory & Sons Developments, and everything had shifted. The power dynamics in this house were as carefully constructed as the luxury condos Victor built across the state. "Brooke, dinner's at 6 sharp," Victor would announce each morning, not looking up from his tablet. "Your mother likes punctuality." My mother, who used to eat cereal for dinner while watching Jeopardy, now sat silently at perfectly set tables, nodding along to whatever schedule Victor dictated. I worked full-time as a contract compliance specialist at Northline Therapeutics, but somehow still ended up responsible for most of the cooking and cleaning. Victor's relatives, his brother's family who lived nearby, his adult daughter from his first marriage, they'd drop by unannounced, feet up on the coffee table, expecting to be served. "You're so lucky Victor took you both in," his sister-in-law once told me, helping herself to the lunch I'd prepared for my work week. Not many men would support their wife's divorced daughter. Support, that's what he called it. Never mind that I paid rent, bought groceries, and maintained the house. In Victor's narrative, he was the benevolent king granting shelter to the desperate. The house itself had transformed under his reign. Gone were my mother's cherished antiques and family photos. In their place stood modern furniture that looked expensive but felt cold, leather and chrome that seemed to judge you for existing too loudly in their presence. Victor had installed a full smart home system. Home-B speakers in every room, smart locks, cameras, the works. For security, he'd said, though I wondered whose. I noticed things. Occupational hazard of being in compliance. The way Victor's home office door stayed locked even when he wasn't there. How he'd have hushed phone calls that ended abruptly when anyone approached. The steady stream of invoices and delivery receipts left carelessly on his desk. High-end appliances, marble countertops, designer fixtures, all charged to Mallory & Sons, all supposedly for model homes. "The Riverside complex is my baby," he'd brag at dinner, usually after his second scotch. $58 million project. Investors are chomping at the bit for Phase 2 funding. He'd always mangle business terms. Champing at the bit. I'd think but never say. I'd learned early that corrections, however gentle, were viewed as challenges to his authority. My mother had developed a peculiar blindness to Victor's behavior. When he'd bark orders or make cutting remarks about my temporary setback of living at home, she'd flutter around, smoothing things over. "He's under a lot of pressure with the business," she'd whisper to me later. "We just need to keep the peace. Keep the peace. Don't make waves. Swallow your pride." The house felt smaller every day, the walls pressing in with each dinner where Victor held court, each family gathering where his relatives were treated like royalty while I cleared plates. I'd catch glimpses of my old self sometimes, in the bathroom mirror at work, in my car during lunch breaks, and wonder how I'd become this person who tiptoed through what should have been home. But I noticed everything, filed it all away. The construction invoices that didn't add up, the way Victor's mood swings aligned with project deadlines, how his investor meetings often happened at establishments better known for their cocktail waitresses than their conference rooms. That Tuesday started like any other. I'd worked late on a contract review, come home to find Victor's relatives had raided the refrigerator, leaving me to cobble together dinner from scraps. As I set the table, 6 places because his brother's family was joining us again, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. I just had to last a few more months, save enough for first, last, and security deposit somewhere, anywhere but here, in this house where I'd become a ghost of myself, serving dinner to the man who never let me forget that I lived under his roof by his grace alone. If only I'd known that in less than 3 hours, everything would change, that Victor's kingdom would crumble not from outside forces, but from the very smart home system he'd installed to showcase his success. But that Tuesday evening, all I knew was that dinner was at 6 sharp, and Victor didn't tolerate lateness. The economic trap had closed around me so gradually, I barely noticed until I was caught. Every paycheck from Northline Therapeutics went toward digging myself out. Student loans, divorce lawyer fees, credit cards maxed during those final ugly months of my marriage. The math was simple and cruel. Even with my decent salary, I needed 3 more months of living rent-free to afford a security deposit and first month somewhere else. "You know, Brooke," Victor said one evening, reviewing what he called household contributions. "Most landlords charge $1,500 minimum for a room in this area, plus utilities, plus groceries." He'd slide the paper across the table. "I only ask for $500. That's $1,000 of my money in your pocket every month." His money, as if my labor, the cooking, cleaning, maintenance, counted for nothing, as if the groceries I bought with my own credit card were his gift to me. But arguing would mean finding somewhere else to live tomorrow, and tomorrow I'd still be $800 short of escape. The family gatherings were choreographed productions where my worth was measured in service. Victor's son would visit with his wife and their twin boys, sweet kids who called me Aunt Brooke, and always thanked me for dinner. All attention focused on them. Naturally, Victor would bounce them on his knee, stuff 20s in their pockets, promise them ponies and trips to Disney. "When are you going to give us grandkids, Brooke?" Victor's daughter would ask, her voice honeyed poison. "Oh, wait, that's right, the divorce." My mother would tense, but never speak. She'd developed a habit of sudden deafness during these moments. "I'm focusing on my career right now," I'd say, serving dessert with steady hands. "Career," Victor would scoff. "Pushing papers at some pharmaceutical company? My project manager makes twice what you do, and he didn't need a fancy degree." I'd grown skilled at swallowing responses, like how his project manager was currently under investigation by the state licensing board, or how my paper pushing had caught 3 major contract violations that saved Northline millions. In Victor's house, achievements that weren't his didn't exist. The red flags multiplied like compound interest. Victor had started renovating the kitchen. Granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, custom cabinets, all gorgeous, all expensive, all billed through Mallory and Sons. "It's a business expense," he'd explained when I'd glimpsed an invoice. "This house serves as a model for potential buyers, perfectly legal." Except I knew it wasn't. My compliance work had taught me the difference between legitimate business expenses and personal purchases disguised as deductions. The IRS had specific rules about model homes. They couldn't be your primary residence, for starters, but pointing this out would mean acknowledging I'd seen his papers, and Victor didn't tolerate snooping any more than he tolerated correction. So I documented, quietly, photos of invoices left on counters, screenshots of delivery confirmations that popped up on the shared family computer, the serial numbers of appliances that were supposedly installed in the Riverside Complex model unit, but were actually humming away in our kitchen, just in case. "You're lucky. You know," my mother said one afternoon, finding me scrubbing the new 6-burner stove after Victor's relatives had cooked an elaborate meal and left the mess. "Victor provides such a nice home. Mom, I'm paying rent. I'm buying groceries. I'm maintaining this nice home." She looked away, that familiar glaze of willful blindness. "Don't make trouble, Brooke. He's been so generous, letting you stay after everything." Everything. My failed marriage, my temporary financial straits, my stubborn refusal to pretend gratitude for what was essentially a trap decorated with granite and stainless steel. The breaking point was building like pressure in a sealed container. I could feel it in the way Victor's criticisms grew sharper, his demands more petty. He'd started timing my showers, claiming water costs, questioning every grocery receipt, asking why I needed to work late when there was laundry to be done. "Your place is here," he'd say, gesturing around his kingdom. Taking care of family, that's what matters. But I wasn't family. I was unpaid staff with a bedroom, tolerated for my utility and my mother's sake. The $1,000 he claimed to save me each month? I was paying it back in labor, in dignity, in pieces of my self-respect served up at every meal. 3 more months. I'd tell myself each night, 12 more weeks, 90 more dinners where Victor held court and I held my tongue. Then I'd be free. I had no idea freedom would come sooner, more violently, and through the very technology Victor had installed to showcase his success. That Tuesday evening, as I prepped for another family dinner, I was still counting down the days until I could afford to leave. The timer on the smart oven beeped. 6 o'clock approached. Time to serve my sentence disguised as dinner. That Tuesday dinner started with Victor's favorite topic, himself. His brother Marcus and sister-in-law Janet had joined us, along with my cousins from Victor's side who treated our dining room like their personal restaurant. I'd made pot roast, Victor's demand of the day, despite Michigan's unseasonable heat making the kitchen unbearable. "The Riverside investors are eating out of my hand," Victor announced, sawing at his meat. "Tomorrow's board meeting is just a formality. Phase 2 funding is guaranteed." "That's wonderful, honey," my mother murmured, the response programmed after 3 years of marriage. "Smart money knows quality when they see it," Marcus chimed in, helping himself to thirds. "Not like those vultures at Hartwell Construction. I heard they're bleeding investors." Victor's face darkened. Hartwell was his main competitor, and any mention of them could shift his mood instantly. "Hartwell doesn't have my connections, or my track record." "Remember when they tried to poach your architect?" Janet added, eager to stroke Victor's ego. "What was that line you used? About them trying to steal your vision?" "I told them." Victor puffed up. "That you can't steal vision. You either have it or you don't. They're still playing checkers while I'm playing chess." I focused on my plate, cutting my meat into precise squares. The same stories, the same phrases, the same performance. But something felt different tonight. Victor's usual bluster had an edge, a tremor of desperation I recognized from my work in contracts, the sound of someone overselling because the deal wasn't as solid as they claimed. "Speaking of vision," Victor continued, "I've been working with Goldman's group on a revolutionary financing structure. They're talking about making me the face of their new development fund." I couldn't help it. Maybe it was the heat, the exhaustion, or just the absurdity of Victor trying to make Goldman's group sound like Goldman Sachs when I knew it was just a local credit union. A small laugh escaped before I could swallow it. The table went silent. "Something funny?" Victor's voice dropped to that dangerous register I'd learned to fear. "No, I scrambled for an excuse. I remembered something from work today." "Share with the class, Brooke." His knuckles whitened around his fork. "We could all use a laugh." "It's nothing, really, just a compliance joke. You wouldn't—" "I wouldn't understand?" He set down his utensils with deliberate precision. "Is that what you're saying? That I'm too stupid to understand your sophisticated pharmaceutical humor?" "Victor, she didn't mean—" my mother started. "Shut up. Elaine." He didn't look at her. His eyes locked on mine. "Your daughter thinks I'm a joke. Sitting at my table, eating my food, living under my roof, and laughing at me. That's not what—" The movement was so fast I didn't see it coming. One moment I was trying to explain. The next his open palm connected with my face with a crack that seemed to echo off the dining room walls. The force knocked me sideways, my chair scraping against the floor as I caught myself on the table edge. Pain bloomed across my cheek, sharp and hot. I tasted copper where my teeth had cut the inside of my mouth, but worse than the physical shock was the absolute silence that followed. My mother frozen mid-reach, Marcus studying his plate, Janet's fork suspended halfway to her mouth, the cousins suddenly very interested in their phones. "You?" Victor stood, his chair scraping back. "Need to learn respect. I've tolerated your attitude, your judgment, your failure of a life dragging down this household. But you will not laugh at me." My nose started bleeding. drops of red spattering onto my grandmother's tablecloth. I cupped my hand under it instinctively, the other pressed to my burning cheek. "Victor!" my mother's voice cracked. "You can't. She's my daughter." "Your daughter is a 34-year-old failure living off my charity," he snarled. "And if she doesn't like the rules of my house, she can pack her shit and leave tonight." "Mom," I managed through the blood and shock. "Mom, please." She looked between us, tears streaming down her face, paralyzed by the impossible choice. But I already knew what she'd choose. She always chose peace, chose to smooth things over, chose him. "Brooke, honey," she whispered, "maybe you should go clean up. We can all just calm down and—" "Are you serious?" I stared at her, blood still dripping through my fingers. "He hit me, in front of everyone, and you want me to clean up?" "Don't be dramatic," Janet finally spoke, her voice carefully neutral. "It was just a misunderstanding. These things happen in families." "These things happen in families." The words rang in my ears as I stumbled up from the table. My phone had fallen to the floor in the chaos. I grabbed it with shaking hands, some instinct making me turn on the camera as I headed for the bathroom. Evidence. Document everything. Behind me, I heard Victor resume eating. "Marcus, pass the potatoes. This roast is overcooked anyway. Typical Brooke. Can't even get a simple dinner right." The others murmured agreement, the sounds of normalcy resuming, forks on plates, ice in glasses, as if nothing had happened, as if my blood wasn't still on the tablecloth. In the bathroom mirror, I saw what they'd all chosen to ignore, a perfect red handprint across my left cheek, blood from my nose, my lips starting to swell. I took photo after photo, my hands steadying with each click. This wasn't going to be smoothed over, not this time. I stayed in the bathroom for 20 minutes, cleaning blood off my face and trying to make sense of what had just happened. The house had gone quiet, no doubt everyone pretending the last half hour hadn't occurred. That's when I heard it. Victor's voice, muffled but angry, coming from somewhere unusual, cracking open the bathroom door. I followed the sound. It wasn't coming from the dining room. It was coming from everywhere. The home B speakers, usually playing Victor's beloved smooth jazz, were broadcasting his voice throughout the house. "Quarterly projections are solid, but these fucking permits are killing us. The city inspector's up my ass about the Phase 1 variations." I crept down the hallway, confusion mixing with adrenaline. In the living room, I found the source. Victor's laptop, open on the coffee table where he'd been working before dinner. A Zoom meeting was in progress, his camera off but audio connected. The participant list showed 12 names. Board members, investors, his CFO. But Victor wasn't at his laptop. He was still in the dining room, ranting without realizing his every word was being broadcast to his board of directors. That bitch Brooke, I swear to God. Marcus, living here like a parasite, looking down her nose at me. I showed her who runs this house. My blood went cold. I rushed back toward the dining room, then froze. On the kitchen counter, the Home B Smart Speaker's LED ring glowed blue, active connection. I remembered Victor bragging about the system's seamless integration, how his devices could auto-connect for maximum productivity. His laptop had paired with the kitchen Home B as the default microphone. Slapped that smirk right off her face. You should have seen it. 'Bout time someone taught her respect. I pulled out my phone, hands trembling as I opened the Zoom app. Victor had sent me meeting links before when he needed documents during calls. His password was saved in our shared family computer. Within seconds, I was logged into his account, looking at the meeting he didn't know was capturing everything. The chat was exploding. CFO Thompson. Is someone else on this call? Investor M. Gray. What are we listening to? Board Chair Evans. Victor, your mic is hot. Victor, your mic is on. But Victor couldn't see the messages. He was still in the dining room, his voice carrying clearly through the Home B. Bleeding all over my tablecloth. Drama queen. Elaine's spineless. Won't do anything. That's the problem with women today. No respect for authority. My mother's voice, weak and pleading. Victor, please, let's just finish dinner. Finish? I'm just getting started. That compliance bitch thinks she's so smart, but she's nothing. Failed marriage, failed life, failure of a... I heard a door slam. Someone leaving. Through the window, I saw Janet hurrying to her car. Phone pressed to her ear. Then another slam. Marcus following. The rats fleeing the sinking ship. The Zoom chat had devolved into chaos. Legal HR Reynolds. Recording this. Everyone stay on. Investor J. Park. Did he just admit to assault? Board V. Chair. Emergency meeting tomorrow 8 a.m. Do not discuss outside this group. I took screenshots of the chat, of the participant list, of the meeting settings showing record to cloud enabled, of the timestamp showing 43 minutes of recorded audio. Victor's voice continued, now slurred. He'd moved on to his post-dinner scotch. Mallory and Sons doesn't need anyone, not the city, not the investors, not some pharmaceutical paper pusher. I built this empire. Me. Then, the golden moment, through the speaker, clear as day. Thompson keeps asking about the receipts, kitchen renovations, like I'm stealing or something. It's called creative accounting. Marcus, every developer does it. The model home write-offs, the furniture, what's that noise? The front doorbell, our Ring camera, another device, another recording. I heard footsteps, then Victor's bellow. What fresh hell? Brooke, where the fuck is she? The doorbell. I slipped back into the bathroom, locking the door just as his heavy footsteps thundered past. Through the thin walls, I heard him yanking open the front door. What? A woman's voice, concerned. Is everything okay? We heard shouting and, oh my God, is that blood on your shirt? Mrs. Patterson from next door. The Ring camera would be capturing it all. Victor's blood-stained shirt, his aggressive stance, the concerned neighbor. Mind your own fucking business, Patricia. I'm calling the police if... Another slam. I sat on the bathroom floor, phone clutched in my hands, watching the Zoom meeting implode in real time. 47 minutes now. 47 minutes of Victor Mallory, CEO of Mallory & Sons Development, confessing to assault, fraud, and God knew what else. The home bee in the kitchen finally disconnected. Someone on the call must have force-ended his participation, but it was too late. The recording was in the cloud. The board had heard everything. Mrs. Patterson had seen the blood. I looked at my face in the mirror again. The handprint had darkened to purple red. My lip was definitely swollen, but for the first time in months, I smiled. Victor thought he ruled this house through fear and money. He thought his smart home system displayed his power and success. He had no idea it had just become the star witness against him. Phase 2 funding for Riverside Complex? That was the least of his problems now. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to my friend from law school. Subject line, need emergency legal counsel. Assault and corporate fraud matter. Have recordings. The kingdom was about to fall, and Victor had broadcasted its destruction himself. By 3 a.m., I'd transformed my bedroom into a war room. My laptop screen glowed with dozens of tabs. Michigan assault laws, corporate fraud statutes, whistleblower protections. My compliance training kicked into overdrive. Document, organize, protect. First, the Zoom recording. Victor's meeting settings had saved everything to the cloud. Using his credentials from the family computer, I downloaded all 47 minutes. The audio was crystal clear. Every threat, every admission, every slur. I made 3 backup copies, encrypted USB, secure cloud storage, and emailed to my personal attorney at Ashby and Pike. Next, the HomeBee logs. The app showed connection history. Timestamp 6:27 p.m. Victor's laptop connected to HomeBee kitchen. Duration, 47 minutes, 33 seconds, screenshot, download, save. The Ring doorbell footage proved trickier. It belonged to our account, but I wasn't the primary user. I remembered Victor bragging about the sharing features, how he could monitor the house from anywhere. His hubris was my opportunity. He'd given my mother access, and she'd shared her login months ago when a package went missing. The footage was there. 7:14 p.m. Victor yanking open the door, blood visible on his shirt, snarling at Mrs. Patterson. My phone buzzed. Sarah Chen from law school, now a senior associate at Ashby and Pike. Brooke, I got your email. Are you safe? For now, he's passed out in his office. Sarah, I have everything, audio, video, photos. Stop. Don't say another word over phone. Can you meet me at my office in an hour? Yes. Bring everything. And Brooke, take photos of any visible injuries right now. With today's newspaper in frame for dating, we're filing for an emergency protection order at 8 a.m. I crept through the house like a ghost, gathering evidence. Victor's office door stood ajar. He'd forgotten to lock it in his drunken state. Inside, papers covered his desk, construction invoices, bank statements, email printouts. My compliance instincts screamed at the violations. Kitchen appliances, $47,000. Billed to Riverside Model Unit. Furniture, $23,000. Labeled staging expenses. Home theater system, $15,000. Marked conference room equipment. All delivered to our home address, all installed in the house where I stood. I photographed everything, careful not to disturb the placement. Then I noticed his computer, still logged in. The email tab was open. A thread with his CFO about managing the books for investor review. Another with his lawyer about restructuring personal expenses. Each one a breadcrumb in a trail of fraud. I forwarded the emails to a draft folder in my account, then cleared the sent items. Let him wonder later how his board got copies. By 5 a.m., I sat in Sarah's office, watching her face change as she reviewed the evidence. This is comprehensive. The Zoom recording alone would be enough for assault charges, but combined with the fraud evidence, she looked up. Brooke, do you understand what you have here? Enough to destroy him? Enough to send him to prison. The assault is clear-cut. We have him confessing on tape, but the fraud, this is federal territory. Wire fraud, tax evasion, investor fraud. The board has fiduciary duty to report this. She pulled out legal forms. First, we file the protection order. With this evidence, we'll get an emergency ex parte order. He'll be removed from the house today. Second, we send a litigation hold to Mallory and Sons, requiring them to preserve all documents. Third, we prepare for the civil suit. I want more than that, I said. I want his board to know exactly who they're dealing with. Sarah smiled. Michigan is a one-party consent state. That Zoom recording is completely admissible, and since the board members were participants, they're already witnesses. We drafted the litigation hold letter, a beautiful piece of legal aggression. 2. Mallory and Sons Development, Inc. Litigation hold. Preserve all documents. This firm represents Brooke Landry in matters involving assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and potential whistleblower claims regarding fraudulent business practices. You are hereby notified to preserve all documents, including but not limited to financial records, emails, Homebee smart speaker logs, Zoom recordings from July 15th. By 7:30 a.m., everything was ready. The protection order petition with photos attached, the litigation hold prepared for delivery, my evidence organized into exhibits. One more thing, Sarah said. The protection order will require him to vacate immediately. Are you prepared for your mother's reaction? I thought of her at that dinner table, choosing peace over her daughter's safety. She made her choice. I'm making mine. Good, because once we file this, there's no going back. His board will get notice of the protection order. His investors will ask questions. The fraud investigation will follow. I touched my swollen face, still purple with his handprint. He thought he owned that house, owned us. Let's show him what real documentation looks like. Sarah's assistant knocked. The courthouse is open. We gathered our papers, my evidence backed up in multiple locations, ready to dismantle Victor's empire piece by digital piece. He'd wake up thinking he still ruled his kingdom. By noon, he'd discover the locks had already changed. The protection order was served at 11 a.m., I wasn't there to see Victor's face when the sheriff's deputy handed him the papers, but my phone started exploding within minutes. Mom, what have you done? Victor. You vindictive bitch. This isn't over. Unknown number. Ms. Landry? This is Marla from the board. Could we speak privately? I answered Marla's call. Ms. Landry, I'm Mr. Mallory's executive assistant. Or was, I suppose. The board has called an emergency meeting about last night's incident. Several members mentioned you might have additional documentation. I might. A pause. The transcript from the Zoom recording has been distributed to all board members and our D&O insurance carrier. If you have other relevant materials. Are you asking me to share evidence, Marla? I'm informing you that the board takes allegations of assault and fraud very seriously, and that our contact information is available should you wish to provide documentation. Purely voluntary, of course. After we hung up, I smiled. Marla had been Victor's assistant for 5 years. She knew exactly where the bodies were buried, and she was choosing her side. My next call came from unexpected quarters. Mrs. Patterson from next door. Brooke, dear, I've been so worried. I have the whole thing on my Ring camera, him at the door, blood on his shirt, threatening me. The police asked for a copy, but I thought you might want it too? That would be helpful, Mrs. Patterson. I also have, well, this is awkward, but our cameras overlap with your driveway. I have footage from other incidents. Him screaming at you by your car last month, that time he threw your laptop bag. I never said anything because he's intimidating. Yes, but after last night, I'm done being scared of that man. Within hours, allies emerged from unexpected places. The contractor who'd installed the kitchen, furious about unpaid invoices, confirmed the appliances were billed to the Riverside project. A former project manager, fired for insubordination, refusing to falsify reports, offered his documentation of fraudulent practices. But the most valuable call came at 4 p.m. David Thompson, CFO of Mallory & Sons. Ms. Landry, I need to speak with you about your litigation hold letter. Could we meet? We met at a Starbucks downtown. Thompson looked like he hadn't slept, clutching a manila folder. I've worked for Victor for 8 years, he began. I've tried to keep things legitimate, but he's gotten worse, more aggressive, more reckless. He slid the folder across. Quarterly reports, the real ones, not what we show investors. I've highlighted every questionable transaction. Why now? Because last night, I heard him confess to assault on a board call. If he's capable of that, what else? I have a family. I won't go down with his ship. I flipped through the papers. It was worse than I'd thought. Phantom invoices, shell companies, diverted funds. This is securities fraud. I know. I've already contacted the SEC whistleblower office. He met my eyes. But I need someone else to corroborate. Someone with clean hands who discovered this independently. And if I share my evidence, we both get whistleblower protection and potentially a percentage of any recovered funds. More importantly, Victor goes to federal prison. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Protection order granted. He has 2 hours to vacate. Police will supervise. Thompson saw my smile. Good news? He's being removed from the house as we speak. Then you should know. The board meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Emergency session about his conduct and the fraud allegations. They'll likely vote him out as CEO. He stood. If you were to appear with counsel and evidence, we'll be there. That evening, I returned to the house with a police escort. Victor was gone. His office cleaned out in a rage. Papers scattered, drawers yanked open. But he'd missed things in his fury. USB drives in the desk drawer, more invoices in his filing cabinet, a laptop he'd forgotten in the closet. My mother sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. He's my husband, she said quietly. He's a criminal who assaulted your daughter. You destroyed him. No, Mom, he destroyed himself. I just made sure everyone heard it. She looked up, tears streaming. What am I supposed to do now? You're supposed to choose your daughter over your abuser, but that's your decision. I'll be at the board meeting tomorrow, finishing what he started. As I packed the rest of my things, my phone rang. Jake Morrison, lead investor for Phase 2. Ms. Landry? I've reviewed the recording and the preliminary evidence. We're pulling all funding effective immediately, but I want you to know, if you need anything, references, connections, whatever, you call me. What you did took guts. By the time I checked into a hotel that night, I had 17 similar messages, board members, investors, employees, all choosing sides, and for once, the side of truth was winning. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that boardroom not as Victor's victim, but as the compliance specialist who documented his downfall, with receipts. The Ridgeview Conference Center's glass walls reflected the morning sun as Sarah and I entered at 8:45 a.m. The security guard checked our names against a list, his eyes widening slightly. We were expected. "Boardroom 3, he said. "They're already assembled." The hallway stretched forever, my heels clicking against marble, through glass panels. I glimpsed Victor in a side room with his lawyer, gesticulating wildly. He spotted me and lunged toward the door, but his attorney grabbed his arm. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "I've been ready for months." The boardroom doors opened to reveal 12 board members around a mahogany table, plus legal counsel, the corporate secretary, and 3 individuals I recognized as major investors. At the far end sat board chair Patricia Evans, her face granite. "Ms. Landry, Ms. Chen, please sit." We'd barely settled when Victor burst in, his lawyer trailing. "This is a setup, a vindictive attack by a disgruntled—" "Mr. Mallory," Evans' voice cut like ice, "you'll have your opportunity to speak. First, we'll review the evidence." Sarah stood. "We've prepared a presentation. May I?" The screen lit up with my first slide. The Zoom transcript. 47 minutes of Victor's own words highlighted in yellow. Slapped that smirk right off her face. Creative accounting. Every developer does it. The model home write-offs, the furniture. Victor's face went from red to white. That was taken out of context. Slide 2, Sarah continued calmly, the Homebee logs. Mr. Mallory's laptop auto-connected to his smart speaker, broadcasting the assault and confession to 12 board members. Slide 3, the Ring doorbell footage, Victor at the door, blood on his shirt, threatening Mrs. Patterson. Slide 4, photos of my injuries, timestamp visible. Slide 5, the invoices, kitchen appliances with serial numbers. These items, billed to the Riverside complex, are currently installed in Mr. Mallory's residence. The CFO Thompson leaned forward. "I can confirm those serial numbers match our purchasing records." "You son of a bitch," Victor snarled at him. "You're fired." "Actually," Evans interrupted, "Mr. Thompson is under board protection as a whistleblower. Slide 6, please." The crown jewel, side-by-side comparisons. Invoices marked model unit, next to photos from my phone of the same appliances in Victor's kitchen. Furniture receipts next to pictures of his living room. The home theater system invoice beside an image of his media room. "In total," Sarah said, "we've documented $127,000 in fraudulent charges over 18 months. This doesn't include potential tax fraud from the improper deductions." "Now wait a damn minute," Victor started. Slide 7, security footage from the office building, provided by Thompson, Victor loading boxes of high-end electronics into his truck. These items were purchased as computer equipment for the corporate offices. The board members were taking notes. One investor was recording on his phone. Victor's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. "Ms. Landry," Evans addressed me directly, "do you have anything to add?" I stood. "Yes, Mr. Mallory told his dinner guests that investors were eating out of his hand, that this meeting would be a formality." I looked him in the eye. "He was wrong. What you're seeing isn't revenge. It's compliance. Every receipt documented, every incident recorded, every fraud exposed. Because that's what I do. I ensure compliance with law and ethics. Mr. Mallory thought that made me, quote, just a paper pusher. I clicked to the final slide. Screenshots of his emails about managing the books and restructuring personal expenses. These papers just pushed him out of his own company. The room erupted. Board members demanding explanations, investors threatening lawsuits, Victor screaming about conspiracies. Order! Evans banged her gavel. Mr. Mallory, the board has already voted. You are terminated as CEO effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Your company cards are canceled. Your access revoked. You can't. I built this company. It's mine. It's a public corporation with fiduciary duties, Evans replied coldly. Mr. Thompson will serve as interim CEO while we navigate this crisis. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Victor turned to me, his face twisted with rage. You think you've won? I'll destroy you. You'll never work in this state again. Mr. Mallory, Sarah interrupted, handing a paper to his lawyer. This is a restraining order. You cannot contact my client, approach within 500 feet, or make any direct or indirect threats. Violation means immediate arrest. The lawyer read it, his face paling. Victor, we need to go, now. As security let him out, Victor managed one last snarl. This isn't over. Evans waited until the doors closed. Ms. Landry, on behalf of the board, I apologize for what you've endured. If you need references for future employment. Actually, Jake Morrison, the lead investor, interrupted. I've been looking for a new head of compliance for my portfolio companies. Someone with your attention to detail and personal integrity would be perfect, if you're interested. I felt something unknot in my chest. I'm very interested. Excellent. And Ms. Landry? Thompson added. The SEC will likely offer a substantial whistleblower reward for your cooperation. Both of ours. It could be significant. As we left the conference room, I passed the glass wall where Victor was being escorted to the elevators. His career in ruins, his company lost, his freedom in jeopardy. He'd said I lived by his grace in his house. Turns out, he'd lived by the grace of unchecked power. Grace period over. The elevator descended in silence until Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled. The police are at the conference center entrance, with handcuffs. Through the lobby's glass doors, I watched the scene unfold like a movie I'd scripted myself. Victor, still ranting at his lawyer, didn't notice the officers until they flanked him. Victor Mallory, you're under arrest for assault, battery, and criminal fraud. You have the right to remain silent. He exploded, trying to wrench away. This is bullshit. I want my lawyer. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir, the officer said calmly, clicking the handcuffs. You're the man who confessed to assault on a recorded conference call. We've been waiting for you. Board members and investors had followed us down, creating an audience for Victor's final performance. Phones came out, recording his perp walk. By noon, it would be on local news. By evening, the construction industry blogs would pick it up, his reputation, like his freedom, disappearing in real time. Thompson appeared at my elbow. The forensic auditors just arrived. Based on preliminary review, the fraud could exceed $500,000. The FBI will likely take interest. Good, I said, watching Victor get loaded into the patrol car. My phone rang. Mom. Brooke, I saw the news alert. They arrested him. Yes. The house is so quiet. I found more receipts in his office. Things he bought with company money. Our whole life was built on lies. What are you going to do? A long pause. I called a divorce attorney, and I'm sorry. For dinner. For not protecting you. For choosing peace over my daughter. Mom? No, let me finish. You were brave. You stood up to him when I couldn't, when I wouldn't. I'm proud of you. Tears blurred my vision. Come to my hotel. We'll figure out next steps together. I'd like that. As we walked to Sarah's car, Jake Morrison caught up with us. Ms. Landry, I meant what I said about the position, but I should mention, it's not just compliance. After seeing how you handled this, I want you to lead our new corporate integrity division, full autonomy to investigate any concerns across the portfolio. That sounds like a job where I'd make enemies. That sounds like a job where you'd save companies from themselves. The salary is $180,000 to start, plus bonuses tied to problems prevented, not just problems found. 6 months ago, I'd been grateful for a fold-out bed in my mother's house. Now I was being offered a job that would let me do what I'd just done, legally, professionally, and with full backing. When do I start? Monday, if you can. We have a situation with one of our manufacturing subsidiaries that needs your particular skills. Sarah dropped me at my hotel, where I found a delivery waiting, a bottle of champagne from Mrs. Patterson with a note. To the bravest neighbor I've ever had. P.S. Victor's moving truck just left. Good riddance. That evening, I sat with my laptop, typing my whistleblower report for the SEC. Each page felt like shedding skin, leaving behind the person who'd tiptoed through that house, afraid to laugh too loudly. My phone lit up with messages. Former Mallory & Sons employees sharing their own stories. Other investors thanking me for exposing the truth before they lost more money. Women who'd experienced similar situations, finding courage in my story. The news coverage was brutal but accurate. Construction CEO arrested after smart home broadcasts assault confession. The Zoom audio had leaked. Of course it had. And Victor's words were being dissected across social media. His own voice, his own admissions, his own downfall. By midnight, the SEC confirmed receipt of my whistleblower submission. The potential reward, based on the scope of fraud, could reach 6 figures. Enough to start fresh. Enough to help my mother start fresh, too. I looked at the photo I'd taken that night. My face swollen, his handprint dark across my cheek. Evidence, proof, but also a reminder. I'd survived. I'd fought back. I'd won. Victor had said I was nothing but a paper pusher living off his charity. He'd said investors were eating out of his hand, that the board meeting was just a formality, that he owned us all. He was wrong about everything. As I closed my laptop, one final email arrived, from Board Chair Evans. Ms. Landry, the board voted unanimously. Mallory & Sons is implementing new ethics policies based on your recommendations. We're calling it the Landry Protocol. Your courage has changed our company forever. With deepest respect and gratitude. Patricia Evans. The Landry Protocol. My name on something that mattered. Something that would protect others from men like Victor. He'd wanted me to learn respect that night at dinner. Turns out, I already knew about respect. Self-respect. And that's what brought his kingdom crashing down. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your own experiences and perspectives make these stories come alive.